As corporations move more of their apps and data to the cloud amid an AI boom, creating a market expected to reach $1 trillion, the need to properly secure those assets is only becoming more important and challenging. This is where cloud security startup Wiz comes in. Wiz connects to storage providers like Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure to scan everything a business is exposing to the outside world, flagging and prioritizing security risks. Picture the doors and windows in an office. Hundreds of doors and thousands of windows. Are they all properly locked? Wiz's security graph would tell the company the 4 or 5 at highest risk, say the windows facing a fire escape, and give tips on how to fix the vulnerabilities. One of our Forbes Cloud 100 list biggest movers this year, soaring 67 spots to number 15, Wiz is arguably tech's highest flying unicorn, at least the highest flying not directly in the AI model race. It was the fastest software company ever to reach $100 million in annual recurring revenue, and then doubled that in just 9 months. And it reached a $10 billion valuation in just 3 years, making its founders new billionaires. But critics say Wiz runs a hyper-aggressive strategy of raising and hiring big, and spending even bigger, with the sharp-elbowed sales tactics to match, that recalls the profligate tech spending of a bubble that's long since burst. So as it helps some of the world's big corporations like LVMH and Morgan Stanley catch this crazy cloud wave, all eyes are on Wiz and its CEO, Assaf Rappaport. First, tell me, how long have you been working on Wiz? Where was it founded? What's the origin story?
So actually, we started March 2020. And if you remember, March 2020 was like when COVID hit. Like that's basically when we understood that COVID is like a true pandemic. It didn't feel like the right timing to start a startup, not in security, not at all. But probably that was the perfect timing for a cybersecurity company doing cloud security.
And when someone who doesn't know anything about technology security is thinking about the different areas that could be under attack that need security, what kind of information or work is going into the cloud that would need to be protected?
Everything, think about organization. Almost everything new that they're doing, they would build it already in the cloud, in the new technology stack. Even look at AI. Like AI is definitely going to be revolutionary, but it's also a cloud revolutionary in a way if you think about it. And everything new is building there. So definitely if you look at the cloud today, it's probably 10%. That's kind of what we're estimating as the penetration of the cloud. But it's still like this is the most advanced and the new stuff that are going, like all the applications, everything that basically we're doing today has a cloud attachment in a way.
And so you split time between New York and Tel Aviv, and that's kind of similar to the company has hubs in different places, right?
I'm based in New York, but we have a large R&D center in Tel Aviv. That's where we started the company. We have offices nowadays also in Washington, in Denver, in Austin, and we're growing. We're trying to grow also outside of the US to EMEA and APAC. Yeah, we're in one way, we're still a toddler in a way and still growing.
Okay, and this is not your first startup. Can you tell me a little bit about what you did before? And I believe it was with the same crew of co-founders, give or take, as this one.
So we actually met in the 8200 unit. The 8200 unit is kind of the Israeli NSA. So in Israel, we have a mandatory service. That's where we're probably one of the people that can say, hey, we didn't choose to work for cybersecurity. Cybersecurity chose us in a way. So we got drafted to that, and that's how we met. And since then, we're working together. So we've been together in 8200. That's where we learned everything about cybersecurity. After that, we founded together Adalom, which was a player in the CASB market, which is more of like cloud applications security. It was a short run, a very fun one. 2.5 years, got acquired by Microsoft. Came to Microsoft, spent there 5 years, more than expected in a way. We found out that Microsoft is a great place also for entrepreneurs, like to study and to learn how to scale. That's where we led basically the cloud security group. So everything that is cloud security for Microsoft, we had the opportunity to lead this business in a way from almost zero to billions of dollars in ARR, which was truly amazing. It's kind of the golden era of Microsoft, and we learned a ton. And then March 2020 back then it sounded like, hey, great timing, to leave the mothership and to start a new company.
Did this feel like a big acquisition and a big win at the time when you sold the business?
Definitely. It was again, it was personally a big win, but also kind of for our ecosystem. And going back to Israel, one of the things that Microsoft did with the acquisition, they acquired like something like 7 startups in Israel doing cybersecurity, and that's the way Microsoft kind of leapfrogged to the amazing business that they have today in cybersecurity. So I think it's a great case study about how company get into a new market, doing some acquisition, and becoming a leader of that market.
Times have changed, right? And what seemed big back then would not seem big necessarily, at least to you today, right? So how does the size that we're talking about with the Adalom acquisition compare to now the approach and what you're building with Wiz?
Unlike first timer, you're like, you know what's the journey going to look like in a way. You know, it's not like, hey, as you see in the movies, I'm going to be a startup or stuff like that. You know, it's going to be like a bumpy road and a very stressful one. So going back a second time, it's truly was a decision that we needed to make. Like, hey, are we going to do that again? But definitely when we made the decision, we knew we were going to do something different. We don't want to do like, hey, let's do another quick round, an acquisition, get acquired by amazing companies that are out there. We thought, hey, this time we want to take it all the way, like to build Microsoft, in a way, to build like what we learned from Microsoft, all about the scale, what we knew from Adalom, a lot about like the startup way and how to be nimble and agile, to put this together, and that's kind of for us. This is Wiz.
So you get bought by Microsoft. You talk to Satya Nadella. What does he tell you, and sort of what do you learn from him?
One of the things that Satya did tell me in the first meeting was, I'm here to set the rule, and you're here to break the rules. And this is super inspirational in a way. Think about it, a CEO that is truly a lot about management and manage, one of the largest organizations in the world. And here, like, how much confidence he has, like, in companies, in the acquired companies. He said, like, I'm here to, not to teach you what Microsoft should do, but I'm here to learn what Adalom can teach us in Microsoft. So that's kind of, the learn it all mentality. I was amazed. Like that gave me truly energy for the next, to the next round.
So with Wiz, what was the first step? Was it to bring together your co-founders who you work with for a long time and say, hey, let's start something new, or how does it start?
When we started the company, we weren't named Wiz. Our name was Beyond Networks. We were thinking about doing network security in the cloud, something that is very, very advanced. But definitely we started with the people we were customer obsessed. We talked to so many customers. And first of all, we understood that, hey, this is a great idea, like what we're thinking about, like doing in network security in the cloud, but it's too futuristic. Actually, I would say, was surprised to find out that the problem that we thought is already solved, organizations are struggling, are not able to operationalize what they try to build. They have so many tools in their cloud, doing cloud security, but they're not getting any results from that. And that's kind of wowed us, and we're like, okay, we truly understand the problem. Let's jump into that.
This business has grown pretty fast, right? Can you give us any sense of sort of how fast from your perspective, and was this something that you anticipated or planned for?
I think nobody planned, like, one of the things that we got to $100 million after 18 months. We then crossed another the $200 million and still growing super, super fast. So nobody's planning like, hey, I'm going to do that. So it wasn't our mindset. Having said that, we had the agility, like hey, when we see things are working, we're building more and we're scaling. We had the right funds. We had the right investors, by the way, as well, to support us. And also, I must admit that being a second timer helps in a way that, because you know how to navigate, you know some of the things that you're going to struggle with. So it gives you some of the experience and enable you to be, I would say, more bold in your decision versus a first timer. But that's maybe only me. But that's kind of what helped us to navigate and take the tailwind and run with that.
What would you say your reputation is today? At a $10 billion valuation, obviously super fast growing revenue, is Wiz still a challenger? Is it now big enough that people are chasing you? How does it feel?
I never feel like big enough. Like, in a way, I still feel like, hey, lots of things ahead of us. I think that in a way we're a startup that is only 3 years old in many, many aspects, but also business-wise grew like at 10 years old or even sometimes 15 years old. So it's I kind of like this ambiguity in a way that you're still startup, still even super small even to the revenues that we have, but at the same time, you're facing the biggest problems of the world and tackling and beating the biggest giants in the security space.
You think you can grow so fast without having sharp elbows and kind of upsetting some people? Because talking to third parties, some people think that Wiz has a reputation for being a little cutthroat, a little aggressive in sales, not so nice. Which again, it's business, so you could argue that's totally fine. But I am curious if that's something that you think about or you think even matters in kind of that pursuit of market share.
Of course it matters, and I'll tell you, I'm sure that we've done so many mistakes in the way. So definitely, maybe we sometimes mistreated someone and stuff like that. So I'm apologizing for that, and this is an opportunity for us to learn. So definitely this is part of that. But as a company, I don't think this is the culture. It's very, very, very different than what you described.
In visiting your offices in Tel Aviv and talking to people around you, one thing that seems to stand out about Wiz is that you have taken a stance on social issues and sort of wanted to have an impact outside of Wiz while still building the company. Sometimes we see business leaders do that more after their business, but not necessarily at the same time. Can you talk a little bit about where that comes from and sort of what your focuses are?
I think that what we're seeing more in the US, that like the involvement of companies, this wasn't exist in Israel. And I think that bringing that kind of, hey, companies can take a stand and companies see themselves as part of the society that they actually part of, this is important. And I think that eventually, it's not about me, it's not about even the company, it's about the people that are in the company, that they care. It's their friends, it's their family, it's where they live. That's why it's so important. It's not something I can say, hey, forget about, work on what you're doing, forget about your friends, forget about your family or your neighborhood. It's here and now. So that's why you need to be part of that, and you cannot disconnect. And that's kind of the view that we have. One of the privilege I had, like as the first timer, was like, hey, to move to San Francisco for the first time, living there. I remember going to the Pride Parade in SF, and I was shocked. I saw all these companies like parading, like from United to Salesforce to every company that you can basically, the big banks, the insurance company. I'm like, none of that happened in Israel ever. When you went back then to the Israeli parade, it would be, sorry for that, it would be condom companies, it would be clothing companies and beers. That's the sponsors for the parade. And seeing that, one of the first things that when I started in Microsoft, one of the first things that we've done, we did a float of Microsoft with all these companies that I just described and Microsoft as part of that. And that's starting to change. And by the way, like last parade in Israel, you're seeing TikTok and eBay, and you're seeing part of the change. And I think that's super important.
You've also caused a little bit of controversy, or at least made waves already with Wiz, right? There was something you did a few months ago, I think with your funding, that at least was big news in Israel. Could you share that with our audience as well?
It's never boring in Israel. So one of the things that we're facing today is more about what's the future of Israel as democracy, the judiciary, is it going to be independent? So lots of things like that. One of the things that was very important for us, and by the way, also for our investors, to be fair, is making sure that we're keeping our company safe. And it's a much more risk being in Israel nowadays. And one of the things that we decided not to bring like the new funds that we raised and to keep it outside of Israel until we are getting more certainty about where Israel is facing. It's super sad for Israeli to say, hey, we're going to hold and we're going to look what's going to happen. But truly, this is one of the biggest risks in my mind, at least, on the Israeli tech scene, on the cyber nation in a way that we've built. Like if we're not be able to keep our judiciary independent and continue being a democracy.
When you think about Wiz in the future, what gets you excited to go to work?
I think when you look at the cloud security market and the potential of that, it's one of the biggest markets going to be in security. And the race is still open in a way. Unlike endpoint security, where there might be a clear leader, and network security, there might be a clear leader. Cloud security going to be probably bigger than those two. And the opportunity is still open. So definitely that's excites me. When you think about racing and making sure that we are becoming kind of the undisputable market leader of the cloud security opportunity, that's huge. The opportunity to build $100 billion company from cloud security, that's what's on stake today for all of us. And I think that when you look at Wiz, when you look at the people at the team that we've built, at the investors that we have, at the customers that we won their trust, I think we had like kind of the best hand in the table, maybe to win this challenge.
So what is winning for you? When do you declare victory?
Yeah, so building a big company. I think that's what we're trying
But
to
it's already
to
a
be.
big company, right?
We can be bigger, but you know, IPO is part of that. Every entrepreneur like has the dream one day to go public. But we need to remember this is like a milestone. This cannot be the goal. This is another funding event, a different funding event that what we're used to. We're going to have that, but the journey is much bigger than going to IPO. Never put like, you know, a milestone as your end goal.